Beers with Chad.
Hey everybody, what is up? Chad Wesley Smith here, Beers with Chad. This afternoon I'm drinking Major Tom from Lamplighter Brewing Company. This is brewed and canned in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Major Tom is a New England style IPA, hopped 100% with Galaxy, intense tropical fruit flavors from this unique Australian hop balance with a full-bodied mouth feel and firm back end. Seems like an odd firm back end bitterness. That makes more sense. I was gonna say, a firm back end on a beer seems like an odd description. As always, this was delivered right to my door by the fine folks at Tavour. Check out the Tavour app through the link in the video info, through the link in the episode info. Couple clicks, you're getting beer delivered right to your door. Better than Christmas. Cheers. I like that. I like that. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about Week 8 in the NFL. We're halfway there. But before I get to any of that, I want to talk about a sad day yesterday in the world of powerlifting and strength sports. When we found out about the death at just 40 years old of Konstantin Konstantinovs. I don't have any information about, credible information about what happened, how he passed away. I've seen a lot of people talking about him being stabbed in a street fight. That wouldn't be entirely shocking to me, just because the line of work that he was in, that this was a tough dude, probably dealing in some shady areas. But I first had the opportunity to meet KK in 2012. I was at the original Juggernaut facility warming up some of my football players, and I'm facing away from the door, and there you kind of see this look on their face like, oh my God, who the fuck is that behind you? And I turn around to see KK standing there, and total surprise to me, he worked in private security and worked with a jiu-jitsu athlete that I had trained some, but I hadn't seen the jiu-jitsu guy for maybe 6 months, and they just walked on in, and it was pretty cool, and definitely like a starstruck kind of moment for me, because even in 2012, the social media presence of powerlifting was so much smaller. Powerlifting as a sport was so much smaller that this was a guy who I watched on YouTube a ton. Because not only did he lift incredible weights and have incredible physique, he lifted these incredible weights in in style. Whether it's doing it beltless, which is of course phenomenal, or doing things like this, pulling 380 kilos, 838 for 4, and holding the bar and whistling, whistling a little tune.
Жестко! На скорость! На скорость! Тянуть! Тянуть жестко! Еще! Тянуть! Все, да?
Well, he holds almost 840 pounds for 20 seconds after his last rep, or pulling 910 and holding at the top for 20 or 30 seconds while he casually has this conversation. So that day we got to talk for a while. He did a little bit of training. He at the time was suffering from a torn lat, which you would have never been able to tell by his back development. When we took a picture at the end, I kind of put my hand on his back. My fingers, I must have lost, past the second knuckle in his back canyon and between, kind of between his lats and erectors. So he's a phenomenally muscular guy, and something that I always remember from that was was asking him, he benches with this close grip and a big bench, 265 kilos, 584 pounds, bench with this real close grip. And I was like, oh, do you do that for a pec injury or something? And he said, if you want to bench heavy with close hands, very simple, just get your arms very strong. And at the time I kind of was like, oh, thanks for the great advice, just get your arms really strong. If it was only that easy. But in so many ways that advice kind of encapsulated a lot of who he was as a person and what he was as a lifter. Like, let's not fuck around with some fancy shit. We're just gonna do it as raw as possible. 939 pound deadlift with no belt, close grip bench, 584. We don't need some fancy shit. We're just gonna work hard, get jacked, get really strong. I stayed in touch with him a little bit over the next couple of years, and then got to spend some time with him in person again at GPA Worlds, late October, early November 2014 in Sydney, Australia. I had lifted much bigger weights at that point, and he told me, he said that he thought I could lift 400 kilos in the deadlift, 880 pounds. He said, but you need a little bit more leg bicep, a little bit more technique. Again, very straightforward advice, and I appreciate the leg biceps term. That's hamstrings, if you were not aware, just because it's such a European kind of funny way to say it. And he's just an intense dude. Besides that, his voice was some combination of Darth Vader and Ivan Drago. I believe that he had his black belt in judo, jiu-jitsu, sambo, in the Latvian Secret Service, and then did this private security work. Just a badass, intimidating dude. You put that with someone who deadlifts 940 pounds, definitely not to be fucked with. And yeah, just very, very intense. We did this interview with him where Dr. Mike was translating, and as Dr. Mike would translate to the camera, KK was just staring at the side of his face the whole time, and he may have not blinked for over an hour. Like, he's just an intense guy. And there was a bit of controversy around this meet, and that there was a lot of Russian athletes invited to compete, and they were there to compete. And when they got there, after having their way paid and everything, a lot of them said, like, I don't feel good to lift, or I'm just gonna do deadlift only, or push pull. People who, the meet directors and supporters thought were there to do a full meet. And Dr. Mike overheard this conversation as KK, in a lot of ways, who is sort of the leader of the Russian contingent there, pulled these guys aside, though he was always only slated to do the deadlift only, but pulled the rest of these guys aside, and in Russian very sternly basically said, do this or I'm gonna kill you. Not like I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna be so mad, but like, do what you said you were gonna do or I'm gonna fucking kill you. And it seemed that everyone took that pretty seriously, because right after, the deadlift only guys became push pull, and the push pull became full meet, and all was fixed. So, a guy that I was definitely inspired by as a lifter, a guy who I really enjoyed the few interactions I got to have with them. So, thoughts and prayers go out to his family and everything there. Tough loss in the powerlifting world, but a guy who really impacted a lot of people, I think. So moving on to the NFL. First things first, it's a Monday morning, and Hugh Jackson got fired. I don't think that Hugh Jackson being fired is a shock to anyone who had watched Hard Knocks. Even though the Browns had won 2 games already this year, doubling their win total from the last 2 seasons, what would they have had to do this year for him to keep his job? 6-10, 8-8 kind of thing. Like, maybe that 8-8 probably does it. 6-10, right on the border. But what I think is more surprising is Todd Haley's gone too, and Greg Williams has been named as the interim head coach. And this is all very indicative of why the Browns are very bad all the time. because there's a lack of stability in ownership, certainly, and it all trickles down from there. Because John Dorsey is a smart guy, you know, their general manager. He's a good general manager. He was very successful with the Chiefs. But sometimes it seems like people go into these bad franchises and they forget how to do their job well. So maybe I wouldn't be shocked if this is all setting up for a big offseason push for the Browns to try and sign Lincoln Riley from the University of Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield's former coach, as their head coach. I think in the interim, they have Greg Williams as the head coach, not Todd Haley. I was surprised by that. But their defense is playing well. Greg Williams is the one in charge of that, so I guess I can see where they're coming from. But for Baker Mayfield's sake, hopefully they get an offensive coach. It really seems like that is what young quarterbacks need to succeed, whether it's Jared Goff, whether it's Pat Mahomes, Mitch Trubisky. You know, you get the offensive-minded coach, you're going to have a better chance of success. Houston Texans, first place. Best their offense has looked all year, putting up 42 points in beating the Miami Dolphins. Not a bad team. Deshaun Watson threw 5 touchdown passes. So though I still put them, you know, behind the Patriots, behind the Chiefs, behind the Steelers, behind the Chargers, and maybe right there with the Ravens as probably the 5th or 6th team out of the AFC with the chance to win or a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They're every week putting themselves more and more in that conversation, and they have more winnable games ahead of them. So excited. You know, that team just has a lot of guys I like on it. Deshaun Watson seems like a great guy. Big J.J. Watt fan. He's playing great. And I'm excited to see them continuing to improve throughout the season and to make at the time, a gutsy AFC Super Bowl pick not look so bad, because after 3 weeks, it was looking really bad. The NFC East race heating up. Redskins win. Eagles win. Cowboys get Amari Cooper. If this next week Atlanta beats Washington, which seems pretty likely, or seems pretty possible, Cowboys beat the Titans, then we have a very, very interesting game in what will be in Week 10 when Philly hosts Dallas. If those things happen this upcoming week, Atlanta beats Washington, Cowboys beat the Titans, Philadelphia is on a bye week. If Dallas can go into Philadelphia with Philly coming off the bye and win, which, as I said, all those things seemed less and less likely to me by the end of the sentence, then I think we have a really great race that's going to go all the way to Week 17 for that NFC East playoff spot. And the most exciting game yesterday, the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Green Bay Packers. Both teams I like a lot. Rams, the hometown team, my Super Bowl pick, got to spend some time with them in training camp. The Packers, you know, the team I liked growing up. My parents are from the Midwest, but more so than that. Aaron Rodgers, Cal Golden Bear, we were there at the same time during the brief but excellent golden era of Golden Bear football. But congrats to them on the big win over Washington this past weekend. So, you know, watched Aaron Rodgers while we were both in college. Big fan of him. Really exciting game. The Packers ran the ball very well, much better than I would expect people to be able to run the ball on the Rams. But so much of what's making the Rams so successful, I think, was encapsulated in Todd Gurley sliding down there at the end. So coming off a incredibly selfish, stupid play by Ty Montgomery in coming out of the end zone and not giving Aaron Rodgers the chance to do what he is so incredibly brilliant at. 2-minute drill, driving the team down the field and only needing a field goal. It would have been tough to stop him and that good receiver group from doing that. But Ty Montgomery stopped him from even having the chance. And then Todd Gurley, even though, to be honest, he didn't need to, he could have just scored a touchdown and that would have all been fine. The Rams would have been up by 8 at that point, 9 after the extra point. He slid down short of the end zone, and though everyone knows that Todd Gurley is going for the single season touchdown record, he sacrificed that individual accomplishment in the short term of scoring a touchdown and adding to his incredible total for the year to ensure that his team won the game. And if there was one thing before the season, as the Rams started to make all these offseason signings, getting guys like Ndamukong Suh, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, all people known as, you know, tough personalities, locker room problems, but, well, on paper, they're so much more talented than everyone else. But it's not just about, you know, what it looks like on paper, it's how it all comes together as a team. I thought if there's going to be one thing that could derail them, it's going to be, you know, a bad team culture, a toxic locker room. And after spending some time, you know, thanks to strength coach Ted Rath and Eddie Grayer, spending some time with the Rams during training camp, I came away not worried about that. I saw someone in Ndamukong Suh who was there early, who was interacting with offense and defense in the weight room, someone who was incredibly professional about his approach to football. I saw just great energy and culture in that team, all coming from, you know, head coach Sean McVay on down. And I came away from those couple days with them at training camp thinking that's not going to be a problem for the Rams. And it hasn't been. They have a great team culture. They have people like Todd Gurley sliding down to you know, take one for the team rather than for themselves. And but at the same time, great culture and great camaraderie and energy. It's easy to have when you're winning. It's important to have to win. And as you win, it's easier and easier to have it. So if some adversity strikes, how will they react? You know, maybe we don't really find that out all year. We'll see. But if, you know, a couple weeks ago when the Rams played the Vikings, I picked the Vikings not because I thought the Vikings were a better team or because of something the Rams were doing poorly, but because it's just very unlikely that the Rams go 16-0. And, you know, just thinking about the math and the odds of it all, I figured this could be a game they're losing. This week at the Saints, best game of the NFL year so far, should be on paper, you know, up there with the Patriots and Chiefs game a couple weeks ago. I want the Rams to win. In a vacuum, if it's just, we don't know anything else that's been going on in the schedule or anything like that, it's just Rams versus Saints, the Rams should win. Even in New Orleans, the Rams are a better team. But again, it is very unlikely for the Rams to go 16-0. And as you look at their schedule, they have this game at the Saints. They host the Chiefs 2 weeks after that. They host the Eagles a couple of weeks after that. Those are really the only three teams that could potentially beat them. With that being said, all of these teams are full of NFL players, and when the, you know, Bills smoked the Vikings, even though they were 17-point underdogs, anything can happen. But realistically, they could lose at the Saints, they could lose hosting the Chiefs, or they could lose hosting the Eagles. If there's any of those games that they're most likely to lose, this is probably the one because it is away. It is against a Saints team that's playing very, very well. New Orleans opens as a 1-point favorite, so we will see what happens this weekend. Week 8 is done. Midseason NFL awards. We'll go from the bottom up. Defensive Rookie of the Year, leading tackler in the NFL, adding 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, Darius Leonard of the Indianapolis Colts, their middle linebacker. Offensive Rookie of the Year, seems like a runaway so far. Saquon Barkley, running the ball, catching the ball. He's on a really shitty team, but he is definitely their best player, and I think the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year. After week 1 or 2, you know, first 2 or 3 weeks, everyone's Khalil Mack. Injuries have been hampering him these last couple weeks. I see three names ahead of everyone else, and that is J.J. Watt, Von Miller, and Aaron Donald. with Aaron Donald, definitely Defensive Player of the Year at the midway point of the season, leading the NFL in sacks with 10, 2 more than anyone else. And you watch him, and man, it is rare to see an athlete that powerful, someone affect the game from that position the way he does. You know, he's not an edge rusher, very similar, you know, to the way that Warren Sapp was the anchor on all those great Buccaneers defenses, creating pressure from the inside. Aaron Donald, Defensive Player of the Year, though Von Miller and J.J. Watt having great seasons as well, getting a lot of sacks, forcing a lot of fumbles, and Von Miller recovering a lot of those fumbles as well. So now, Offensive Player of the Year, MVP, in so many ways, you know, they're kind of one and the same at this point in the NFL. So I'm going to go Offensive Player of the Year, Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs offense has been great. He's been incredible. And then our MVP at the halfway mark of the season, the best player on the best team in football, Todd Gurley. Running the ball incredibly, catching passes out of the backfield, making smart plays, and it seems like when they need a couple yards, Todd Gurley gets a couple yards. He can do it all. He's really, I mean, just phenomenal. One of the best running backs you could ever hope to see play football. So that's it. You know, rest in peace to Konstantin Konstantinovs. My update through week 8 of the NFL season. This is Beers with Chad. Go on iTunes, give me a 5-star review. Write me something funny or nice down there. In 2019, I'm going to be getting out to a lot more cities doing Beers with Chad in person, so we could have a beer. You could have a beer with Chad, just like is happening virtually right now over the YouTube. So I'd always appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video with your friends. If you want great beer from all over the country, all over the world, delivered right to your door, check out the Tavor app. You can get delicious ones like Major Tom by Lamplighter Brewing Company. Tomorrow, we will release the Juggernaut AI coaching program. I'll be talking about it in future episodes. We have a lot of videos coming out about what it does. I will say, without a doubt, the most game-changing creation, revolution that's really happened in powerlifting coaching ever, maybe. I mean, since people thought of like tracking volume and intensity, things like that. We put hundreds and hundreds of hours into developing it myself, along with Garrett Blevins, and it's going to be for less than $1 a day, possible now for you to get program designed by me, totally customized to everything about you. And not only is it totally customized, you know, taking into account your height, weight, strength, experience, age, lifestyle factors to give you individualized volume landmarks, optimized frequency, personalized periodization strategy, exercise selection for your weak points. It's not just that. It's not just a great program, you know, and there are other great programs that you could find in templates, though not as great as this one. It grows and learns and adapts with you, making changes intra-session, within a week, week to week, training cycle to training cycle, looking at the feedback you give to keep optimizing the program for you. So that is Juggernaut AI Coaching. You'll be able to find it at store.jtsstrength.com, as well as all over every social media that I'm involved in. So this was Beers with Chad. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Cheers. See you next time.